All right. So my guest today is Wells. How are you, Wells?
Victoria, I'm very, very good. And I see that you are too. You've got a good
Yes,
smile on your
yes,
face.
always.
So
Thanks
so
for being here. So
absolutely.
let me ask you first, like, where are you right now?
I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico,
Mm-hmm. But
USA.
yes, of course. But we're talking today about your travels to the Middle East.
Yes.
And
Right.
so, what was your interest in the Middle East in the first place?
The draw goes back to actually the motivation and the center of our going there. The draw about the Middle East was T.E. Lawrence. I mean, that happened before 9/11,
Mm-hmm.
before the wars and the warring. I didn't know much about Israel. I had Israeli friends
Mm-hmm.
and friends from all different cultures, but it was Lawrence and it was the movie that I saw a long time ago. I was young. I was in my teens.
So you
And for
talk about
me,
Lawrence of Arabia.
Lawrence of Arabia, and when I
Mhm.
saw it, I was just like, wow. And then it was like, this is a true story. It's like, really? And so I was captivated. I was captivated by the the period, that suddenly seeing a British person now wearing what they called Bedouin clothing, and he was a part of the an Arab revolt. And I didn't tie
Mhm.
in with what an Arab was or what even the British, but it was just these different factions and then
Uh-huh.
some rogue guys, and it was very romantic and colorful, and it was really guy. It was a very guy thing. I grew up without a father in a large family, and
Mhm.
I had a father until I was 11. He passed on. And older sisters, twins, a brother born on my first birthday, and then another set of twins. So there were kids around, but I was the oldest
Uh-huh.
boy. And I had a curiosity and a sense of adventure, and seeing Lawrence of Arabia was just amazing. And eventually, I looked deeper into him because I had reached a point in my acting career. I've
Mhm.
had a few different things that I've done, but
Uh-huh.
acting was kind of when I was still in my 20s, and I really couldn't feed my family that way. I couldn't support add my
Right.
side of the support, and
Mhm.
so I was looking for a one man show to do as a performer, a solo
Okay.
performance, and I was thinking, who could it be? I'd seen a show of Mark Twain that was done, and Hal Holbrook did Mark Twain for years, and he had it was in his back pocket. He could act in films, he could do this, but he always had this
Okay.
turned into a magnificent show on Mark Twain. And I thought, what about Lawrence? I was looking at Peter O'Toole. I'm blonde, I'm blue, I'm 6'3", he's 6'1" or 2, but
That's close.
I could do it. And
Yeah.
I read Seven Pillars of Wisdom, and I got into the book, and then I got into other books. For your listeners, there's probably over 50 biographies on T.E. Lawrence,
Oh,
Lawrence of
wow.
Arabia.
Okay.
Yeah, and many, many other pieces of writings that he did that have been used, particularly after 9/11. He wrote
Mm.
27 articles, which were 27 thoughts on how to work with Bedouins and the
Mm.
Arabs in the Middle East.
Mhm.
And that became a primer and an essential reading for American officers
Mhm.
during this whole long war that lasted for so long.
Yeah.
So, and then I found out that he was 5'5" and
Okay.
that completely changed my view of him in a positive way. And there was no way I could play him as a performer. I was a performer, and I would not do that. I would not suspend that level of disbelief because his size, his stature, and then what he accomplished. I mean, 5'5" as a male British guy, that was had such influence. And so
Okay.
I even related more to him then. Then I realized,
Mhm.
wow, my life and my desires and my pushing myself physically, pushing myself mentally are very similar to Lawrence. His
Mhm.
sense of adventure, his sense of stamina, and his
Okay.
desire to know cultures. Anyway, I should stop because you might have a
Okay.
question.
Yeah, so that was then you kinda wanted to follow his footsteps to do some more research on the character?
Oh, I see. Sure. In 2005, um, I met up with my longtime friend Miles. It had been four
Mhm.
years. We had done a television show together, a PBS
Okay.
television show called Money Hunt, and then we traveled around the country with Money Hunt. Um, that lasted for 3 years until the dot com blew up in 2000.
Ah,
And
yeah.
because it was a very exciting time for new companies and it's an entrepreneurial, you know, mega time frame where they
Yeah,
just came out of the woodwork, and there seemed
sure.
to be a lot of money and ideas, and
Mhm.
it was all about the internet,
Yeah,
you know. And look where it's come 25, 6 years later.
yeah.
So I met up with Miles, and I'd been working in Washington, D.C. I'd been working at a high level um, as a chief operating officer of a foundation. The
Mhm.
foundation's chairman of the board was Alma Powell, Colin Powell's wife. And
Mhm.
then the president, the one that created this foundation, was, again, a high level wife, but both women incredibly
Mhm.
brilliant and strong. I'm not, you know,
No.
reducing their
Yeah, yeah,
power
no.
at
I get
all.
it.
They just happen to be
Uh-huh.
married to the other one who's married to Bill Bennett, the former Secretary of Education and drug czar, and they were
Mhm.
very influential people. And the board members were cabinet secretary wives, and this is back in 2001 to
Uh-huh.
2005. So I had run this foundation and did many events for them as a producer of events, fundraising events, but very imaginative, theatrical things. So I met up with Miles, and he asked me, he knew I was in DC. We had very little contact, but he knew I was working at that level. He's working at
Mhm.
the same level as an entrepreneur and a builder of businesses. But he said, what do you think about the war going on? He said, you've been kind of close to it, being in DC with those people. I said, well, we've gone from mission accomplished to it's now weapons of mass destruction that we're looking
Mhm.
for. And the retribution, the retaliation for 9/11 just hasn't stopped. You know,
Right.
we've gotten Osama bin Laden, but it's just gone on and on and on. He said, well, what do you think of that? I said, I don't know what to think. I don't know what it's like there, but the headlines in the newspaper are just still raging. And you know, the tension around any Arab seems to be anyone that's of a Muslim is a terrorist. Just sort of
Yeah.
an underlying mass thought.
I know, like, everybody was thinking, having bad thoughts. I feel like still, it did not completely vanish.
No,
So
no,
was this also like part of your whole idea of like rebooting the image
it's
of the Middle
I
East?
I love the way you say that, but that's not at all what it was. We had to go there, and so he said, and the conversation continued, and I said, yeah, so I've read Seven Pillars of Wisdom. He said, so have I. I said, I've actually read much more than Seven Pillars of Wisdom because I was going to do a one-man show. He said, that's what I want to talk to you about.
Oh, okay.
You play Lawrence, and I'm just going, oh boy, here we go. You play Lawrence, and we'll go around to universities, and we'll bring, what happened in the Middle East and at the Paris Peace Conference, all those agreements and all those things that just created the foundation of 9/11, of the Israeli Palestinian conflict. And I said, it's a brilliant idea. I'm not the one to play Lawrence. Why not? He said, Peter O'Toole. I said, I'm not Peter O'Toole. even, even when we're talking, I said, Lawrence was 5 feet 5.5 miles. And there's no way he said, "Oh, yes, there is a bigger chair on
Yeah.
stage." And
There you go.
I was going, he doesn't give up. He's brilliant, but he
Yeah.
doesn't. And we found a Broadway producer because we were intent on doing a play,
Uh-huh.
getting people to turn off their cell phones. This is back in 2005 and 6. Turn off
Mhm.
their cell phones, see a first class play with stars, and the content of the play would be the dilemma of the Paris Peace Conference, of coming to terms with what to do with the Middle East. And what they did
Mhm.
is the British said, "Well, I want this part," and the French said, "I want Syria," and the British said, "I want, the area in Basra and this and that." One was after oil, the other was after, uh, more land. And we realized after we met a Broadway producer and she took us on and we had a contract with her. We still have that contract. We've been through four different writers. Three. The fourth writer is the first American,
Okay.
only woman that we've
Uh-huh.
commissioned. We've raised money, we've paid for all these people to give their ideas, and it was wonderful with each individual. And they're known playwrights, known British playwrights, but I don't need to name names because we didn't continue with them. What they came
Uh-huh.
up with was not satisfactory to what we were after. But
Mhm.
Elizabeth Egloff, and I am mentioning her name because she's written a play and we've all worked on it. And we're at the point where it's really in the final stages of actually getting it on the boards, getting it uh, produced outside of town of New York City, and working it through. And it's wonderful. It's called Dinner at the Majestic. The Majestic was the hotel that the British were assigned to during the Paris Peace Conference of 1919. And so it's Gertrude Bell is the fulcrum point, and then it has T.E. Lawrence and Amir Faisal, the two main men that were involved during the revolt. They led the revolt. Lawrence representing the British and Emir Faisal representing the Arabs and the Hussein family. Now, in the end, a few years after the war, um, Hussein became the king of Jordan, and Emir became the first king. The Emir Faisal became the first king of Iraq. Our interest was to go there and see for ourselves, with our own
Okay.
eyes,
Yes.
to see if there's a story beyond the headlines in
Mhm.
all the papers every day
Right.
about
Right.
weapons of mass destruction, the number of deaths, the number of bombings, the number of, it's shifted from
Mhm.
here to Iraq, from here to Afghanistan, from here. No, there's issues now in Israel. It's like now something's happening in Syria. And it's just the
Yeah.
whole area in turmoil.
All right. So what were your expectations like?
The expectation really boils down to an intention, and that was to truly be available to receive and watch and see and be in a position that we're not drawing any attention to ourselves
Yeah.
as the tourist American, which was
Yeah.
impossible in 2006. There were no
I'm sure there were
tourists.
no tourists.
No, 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 no. And
No.
we found that out telling as we were as it was revealed what we needed to do to get there.
Yeah.
And we knew that we wanted to follow T.E. Lawrence's path from Jeddah in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia along the Red Sea, just like the movie,
Okay.
and then
Okay.
follow it up. And when we stopped at certain historical places, Miles came up with the idea we need to have a time travel device. I said, "What?" He said, "Think of it. If we have a time travel device when we're going along the path of the Arab revolt." I said, "I get it. I love it. And it's got to be a dagger, Miles." He said, "Brilliant." so, so we decided then that we really wanted to, this is the book. We wanted the book to be an historical fiction about
Mhm.
our journey through the Middle East.
Got it.
What were the expectations? The expectations were to stay alive,
Yeah, okay, good. Important.
to stay conscious,
Mhm. Yes.
to truly live in the moment and meet as many people as we could meet. And that means as many people as we could meet, as many different cultures. And we had a little help with that through an organization called Seeds of Peace.
Mhm.
Our fundraising model followed the same fundraising model we used for Kayak for a Cause. We inspired people to kayak. They wanted to kayak across Long Island Sound. They form a pod of 10. They name it pirates, wenches, and all kinds of colorful names.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Then they raise money. And then we
Okay.
would take that money, it would pay for the boats, the flotation gear, food, and a lovely party on the beach. And I would bring in a band like the Neville Brothers or Dickie Betts or the Wailers, different
Mhm.
years and local. Then we would write checks to charities.
Right. Okay.
We worked
Uh-huh.
up to 313 kayaks,
Wow. Mhm.
and we ended up writing checks to 5 charities for $50,000 each.
Nice. That's
And
awesome.
so for our trek, we called it Lawrence on Arabia. We decided we had to find a foundation that supported our intention, that supported a higher understanding
Mhm.
of the
Okay.
Middle East. And so Seeds of Peace brings, and since 1993, they have been bringing high school thought leaders that are Muslim and Jewish,
Oh,
basically
together.
Israeli, yes,
Nice. Mhm.
to the United States in Maine for the summer on a lake to deal with conflict resolution.
Oh, yeah, very very good.
So these are kids that even their stories about what their mom or their dad thought about them going to the camp,
Sure.
some were for it, some said no,
Mhm.
no. And they worked it out. And these are there were several women that were talking about it. And one said, yeah, I said, Mom, I'm not like you. I do not feel that way that you feel. I would never talk about anyone like that. Would never do that. Someone's 17, 16, 17 years
Sure,
old.
yes.
She gets to the camp. She's Israeli. And she has an argument with a Palestinian young lady. And the temperature gets higher, higher. And then suddenly
Uh-huh.
she said, I said the exact same things to that, what I thought was a bitch that my mom was saying about them. And then I realized it. I stopped. I just broke down and I ran out of the room. And she said, it was just the most horrible feeling. I realized that I was so embedded underneath all this thought that
Mhm.
I thought I had
Mhm.
of peace and love and getting along.
Mhm.
And when it got down to it, I called her a pig, her people, and the ba 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 ba. And she said it was horrible. And I went out and I was sitting out by the lake and I was crying and I just stopped. I said, it's got to stop. I closed my eyes and tried to lie down. And then it's just, I don't know how much time went by and I was hearing this sound, this flute was behind me playing. And she said, people brought their instruments and stuff. And it got closer and it was like right over me. And I opened my eyes and it was the girl that I was yelling at.
Oh, yeah.
And she was playing and she said, it's okay. And we hugged. We went back into the room and the counselor said, this is exactly why we're here. He said, this is
Uh-huh.
good. Now we have something to hold on to and work through. So by virtue of Seeds of Peace, we call it Seeds of Hope in the book.
Mhm.
We were
Okay.
able to meet The man that started Seas of Peace, his wife was in charge. He had passed on, and we met her, Janet Wallach, wonderful woman. She's a writer, and she's written about several uh, British people, primarily Gertrude Bell, that was an adventurer and very influential as a woman in the
Mhm.
Middle East. I mean, she created the
Okay.
Baghdad Museum that got ransacked, during the whole revolt. She did many things. She was the Oriental secretary to the civil, the man in charge, the British man, but she was very close to Emir Faisal. Anyway, Janet said, "This is fabulous. You're going to follow T.E. Lawrence's totally got it path." We said, "Yes." She said, "What I can do for you is that we have campers in Jeddah, and we have campers in Amman, and we have campers in Jerusalem. We actually have an offices in these places,
Uh-huh.
and so we can send you to the office, and they will bring in someone, or we can arrange for you to meet someone that's been to the camp.
Okay.
You'll be able to meet Arabs and Jews and see what their experience was like." And so
Mhm.
that opened the door from the first camper that we met. He's Abdullah Durandari. We met him in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, in the very beginning of the trip. And he was 16 years old. He had gone to the camp that's the summer before. So he went when he was young. I guess he had just
Mhm.
turned 16. He was getting ready to turn 17. And he said how much fun it was. And he was a very lively young man, Arab. He was Saudi.
Mhm.
And when we met him, he was just in a t-shirt and jeans. He wasn't
Mhm.
wearing Saudi clothing. He's young,
Okay.
a kid. And he said, "You've got to meet my father. My father wants to meet you. Can I call him? Can he come? Can he come now? I mean, he will come right now." And so we met Osama, his father.
Uh-huh.
And Osama is in our book, and he's very colorful. He's funny, but underneath it, he's very serious. But he has a sense of humor. And it was through Osama that we were introduced. And by a year and a half later, we were actually producing a major sea festival in Saudi Arabia. And it came through
Okay.
the father of one of the campers to Seeds of
Okay.
Peace.
So that was not planned in the beginning that you're gonna
No,
plan a festival.
there has been no plans other than go see with our own eyes and come back with for the play and infuse it into the play.
Ah, okay.
And so that was that, but it was a 8 months of training to be prepared to go. So
What do you
we had the
mean
idea
by
in July.
training?
Pardon?
What do you mean with training?
Everything from physical to mental to risk assessment and risk management, crisis management.
So it's like a
To
survival training?
It was in a way, yes, but we
Mhm.
picked it up in different from different factions. Some of it we came with, um,
Okay.
and some of it was refresher. The We realized after our wives said, "You know what? You better look at your will." It was like,
Yeah. True that.
you better look at the will. I hadn't written a will. I had never written a will.
Yeah.
Now today, I mean, everybody's writes, agreements before they even start kissing. I mean, and
Yeah.
it's almost
Kinda, yeah.
so. But back then, it was like really, and it was like, yeah, no fooling, a will and sign and blah blah blah. And
Yeah,
so what we realized is that we needed insurance,
sure, yes.
and so we asked around with our friends that do a lot of international travel, and we came up with Ackerman International Insurance Company,
Mhm.
and we spoke with them, and the lady says, "You want to what?"
Yeah.
We're following T.E. Lawrence's path from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. along the Red Sea, Gulf of Aqaba, up through Jordan, into Syria. She's going, oh, whoa, whoa, wait just a minute. Have you ever been? No.
Yeah.
She said, you must be trained. We would not be able to insure you
Okay.
without your having a better knowledge of where you're actually going. And right
Mhm.
now, I mean, it wasn't during then, but it was not long after that the two hotels in Amman, Jordan, had been bombed by
Ah,
terrorists,
okay.
and that was just before our travels there.
I see.
One of them we wanted to stay in,
Oh, yeah,
and
that's scary.
and so there were just different things that brought the reality of what it's taking, as well as the reality of you don't fly into Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, like you do Heathrow or De Gaulle or
Okay.
Schiphol. It's like,
Uh-huh.
no, you have to have visas. Well, it's just a visa. No, 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 no. You have to be sponsored.
Oh, even just for visiting?
Back then, yes, in
Ah,
Saudi Arabia,
okay. Wow.
Jordan, it was very easy to get it just
Mhm.
took the processing of a visa.
Yeah.
Syria was difficult. It was held and held and held. It was the week before we left. We didn't have clearance from Saudi Arabia or
Mm.
Syria, and it was just we were pressuring. We were in New York City, and we went to the actual main offices and said we must because we have tickets and we are on our way, and it
Uh-huh.
worked out. It
Then
worked
but
out.
were you, like, ever thinking about postponing it then? I mean, surely,
Never,
like, even with the
never.
visa, you had, like, troubles, and then on top of the ongoing war?
It was a determined, and it wasn't a battle. It was, we've not done this. We've done other very
Uh-huh.
challenging, logistical, challenging, cultural, challenging
Uh-huh.
things. But this was very unique because it was going into an area of conflict. And especially, I say especially Saudi Arabia, because in our training, we did find, and he happened to have been a partner at Ackerman, but
Mhm.
he was also had been appointed private secretary by the Queen of England, by Queen Elizabeth,
Uh-huh, wow, yeah.
in the care of Prince Harry and Prince William
Oh, wow, yeah.
a year before. And so we met. She said, well, we said, well, we've looked into Blackwater, which is, that's a mercenary group. And we thought you know, we were checking out what they might offer us in courses. And
Mhm.
she said, okay. And we're looking at Triple Canopy and Centurion, but Blackwater is the one. I mean, I'm connected with that because a guy I hired is former SEAL team member that was with Prince when Prince left the SEAL team. I mean, there was a connection.
Mhm.
And she said, well, I don't know how deep you want to go. You're not carrying weapons, are you? We said, no. No. She said, so you don't really need that. You need to know how to you need to know the culture
Yeah.
and how to present yourself. You're Americans, and that you'll never get rid of, and they'll see that in your face immediately. Oh, these
Yeah.
are Americans, and but there's a manner of behavior. There are customs that you wouldn't
Mhm.
want to cross, and just saying hello and goodbye, and
Mhm.
how to go in and out of buildings, and how to travel. And
Okay.
she said, I have just the person for you. And this is a partner of ours, and it's Jamie Lothar Pinkerton. And he's done similar things with other young men. And why don't you talk with him? So we did. And he took us on, and he told us at the same time that he had, I guess it was a little over a year before that, he had worked with Ewan McGregor, the actor, and
Mhm.
Charlie Borman for their long way around motorcycle trip around the world.
Okay.
But he worked with them in that area, but he had not worked with anyone to go through Saudi, Jordan, Syria, or
Okay.
Israel.
Uh-huh.
And so we received very specific training, specifically at the highest level, kidnap and ransom.
Oh, wow. Okay. But did that not scare you?
No, it made me very alert to listen, to
Mhm.
learn, to follow. This was part of the process. I'm former Antarctic pararescue team member when I was
Okay.
younger, and
So
so
you
I've
already had
been
some
trained.
training. Mhm.
Well, training where people would say, "Well, that's risky." You
Yeah.
go, that's your thought. I can understand that. It's not to me. I want to live, but yes, I'm jumping out at 16,000 feet and I'm going to free fall for 90 seconds and land on the target because they need help,
Okay. Yeah.
you know. And I figured out that when I got very scared at one point in skydiving, when I almost fell out completely of the helicopter,
I'm glad you
that
did it.
through the shaking and all the rattling and saying I can't, I don't want to jump anymore, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this,
Mhm.
that it's like, why are you doing this? And I came up with the answer. It's transportation. That's all it is. You know, all the
Okay.
fancy fun stuff in the air and all the playing around, that's great, but really there's a mission. That's It's transportation.
And do you
And so
remember Oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
just with Jamie, all the things that we're learning is just a further education. We've all seen it in movies, especially more so since 2005 and 6.
Mhm.
But it's like, this is great, getting very specific instructions on what to do. And then also, what do we need? What's the technology that we need? One thing, I keep this close because I show podcasters, in case of mortal danger, this is a personal locator beacon. It's the first one, ACR. It was
Uh-huh.
made in 2005,
Okay.
and you trip this. There's an antenna that flips around the
Uh-huh.
side. It
So it's like
comes
a
up.
satellite?
It looks. It is. It's
Uh-huh.
an old style
Old
satellite.
satellite. That's what nowadays the phone does too,
Oh,
right?
you got to watch. You
Yeah,
go,
exactly. But that's like
where
from back
am
then.
I? And it goes, "Di-di-di-di,
Uh,
you're here." And you go, thank
uh-huh.
you. You're welcome. It's like,
Yeah.
no, this you trip, and then it's set up and it to triangulate with the satellites overhead
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and connect. It'll connect to a place in Florida, USA. Florida will call the individual that's on file in our file, and they will see the level of insurance we have, and they will talk with that individual. We did not have our wives to receive the
Mhm.
information. We went through a very um, reliable friend that would be
Okay.
unemotional, that would be able to deal with whatever he would see. And then if he's getting a call from our organization that we were working with, he
Mhm.
would know it's mortal danger. I mean, he would know because we talked with him about it.
Okay. And also, do you remember like going back, like what the first cultural differences like you had to prepare for? Or like what they told you about like the cultural differences? So you were like
Well,
kind of know how to.
sure. Part of it was just from the bathrooms. It's a whole different
Uh-huh.
thing. You don't have toilet paper in the
Oh
bathrooms.
yeah, okay.
You have a hose and it's water. And whether
Mm.
you're
So
in a very, even in you know, they say we're not 5 star, we're seven.
uh,
That's in Saudi Arabia. We're
okay.
7 star hotel.
Uh-huh.
Even in very fine places, it's the same process, and that was different. You know,
Uh-huh.
cleaning with the hose using your left hand, and your right hand is for food. Left hand is for any kind
Cleaning.
of cleaning or
Uh-huh. Okay.
but and so how to say hello,
Sure.
wassalam alaikum, and
Uh-huh.
how to look in the eye, what not to do. It's like, hey man, what's going on? Hey,
So
hey,
that's not to do.
cool. No, hey, I like that. I like that hat you're wearing. What is that? What do you call that? You know, it's learning how they dress, learning some of the language in Arabic, learning Arabic,
Mhm.
and we've and learning the food, learning how to eat, knowing it, but practicing it there. Rolling rice in your hand into a ball and then with your thumb popping it into your mouth.
Okay.
And learning that your feet never face the food. Your feet are always behind or to the sides.
Ah, okay.
Learning not to spit, because in the kingdom,
Sure.
that's, sacred. The ground is sacred.
Mhm.
Knowing never raise your voice.
Sure.
Always
Uh-huh.
stay calm. Never and never cuss. No swearing. You don't use the F word there. And you don't, if you're negotiating, you never get mad or upset.
Okay.
Some of these things came from T.E. Lawrence. Some of these things
Mhm.
came from Jamie, and
Okay.
and then the specifics of recognizing that you are always being watched, and really
Okay.
sitting and thinking, okay, we really are always being watched. Yes,
Because you were the foreigners?
yeah, we're foreigners. People see, and there are people that sit around all day. That's all they do is watch and look, and they're not looking for trouble, but you're seeing.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, you don't want to be seen twice. You're seen once going through.
Mhm.
Don't go out the same doors. You stay in a hotel, stay on the lower first floor in the back. Why? Because terrorists bomb the front of hotels.
Ah. Oh, so this is all
To
what
me,
you learned also with
just
that
these are
trainer?
just little teeny little
Ah,
pieces
okay.
of a bigger, puzzle that we
Mm.
were a part of. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you fine, yes.
Okay, good. So, culturally, the biggest, hearing about it is one thing, seeing it and working within it is the separation of males and females in the kingdom.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's called family and singles. So, family means even when you go into a restaurant,
Okay.
families are shielded away from other people. You never look at women.
Mhm. Was that
Now,
hard for you to, get used to? Because, I mean
it was just observing it and making sure that we were on the right side of the divider. you know
Uh-huh.
but
Okay.
being an adult man is different than being a young man, and
Mhm.
so going to the malls in Saudi, the malls, they have Chanel.
I'm
There's
sure they have it all. I mean, they have
exactly.
money. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and you see the women and they're fully covered and you just see eyes.
Yeah.
And then you look down at their feet, when their feet steps out, a lot of diamond toe rings,
Okay.
you know.
This
And
is
the
how
back
they
of their abaya
show
could be the
up, yes.
Chanel, the two
Right.
C's of Chanel in
Sure.
spun gold on their
Yeah,
black outfit. And
right.
then once in a while you catch a glimpse of hair and you see it's been streaked, highlighted. And then talking with the men. That's where we found out. And they say, Osama, who's in charge of the house? My wife.
Yeah.
Who's in charge of your life? My wife.
Yeah.
Does she ask for things all the time?
Yeah.
Do what do people wear? He said, we wear cut off jeans. I love New York t shirts. And
Oh, so the same.
what goes on inside the compound, you know? So, all this, like when we come over, we're fed, none of your family's around except the boys. He goes, yes, that's it. That's the way it's done. And what about this driving thing? I don't see any women driving, but I see them in the back seat, and unusual looking people driving. He said, well, they're from different Mongolian countries, and he was talking
Ah.
about they come
Ah,
from
okay.
some wild place in above the Arctic Circle or
Ah,
something.
yeah, yeah. Sure.
and And I said, well, what we hear in the United States or in the Western world is that that's, it's just a horrible life for women. And he said, no, no, that's not true. This is a custom that's been in place for, this will change. Women will start driving. I mean, there's this plan. I've heard that there's this plan for 7 women to go to the parking lot at the shopping area, and they're going to drive on Saturday. I said, really? Is that unusual? Yes. The religious police and they will be arrested. I said, they will.
Uh,
Will they be punished? He said, well, in a way, but no. But there are women that want to claim their freedom or their
mhm.
independence.
Mhm.
But he said, no, it's not. It's not something that's in the newspapers. It's not a
Okay.
media thing. And
Mhm.
of course, we were there when the internet was just, really beginning. And the
Right, right.
to go on the internet in Saudi Arabia, it was controlled. You couldn't go
Sure,
wherever
yes.
you wanted to go to any site or things like that. Excuse me.
But
So
when you were meeting with Osama or also with his son, did you ever encounter the mother too? Or was it even possible, like, to be invited in the family and to have like a conversation with everybody?
mhm. No,
No.
no, no. And I say, well, Osama, how do young men meet, young women for marriage and for relationships? And do they
Mm-hmm.
do they date? Oh, he's like, no, it's arranged. I said,
Yeah.
arranged. What's arranged? He said, all of it.
Uh-huh.
It's all arranged. And I said, but people have phones now. People can take pictures. And then what we noticed is that when you go into these places, the girls in the beginning, when they found these phones, you know, I, you know, 2005, they were taking pictures of themselves in the dressing room, showing who they were. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
yeah, yeah.
naked pictures, and
No,
they
no,
were
just a
just saying,
face. Just a head.
just
Yes.
like it's me and sending it. And well, they put a kibosh on that by collecting all the phones when you walk into this. I mean, imagine going to a mall that's
Right.
massive and there's
Yeah.
hundreds of people, and then you have to hand over your phone.
And then how do you get it back? No, I would not
You
want to
don't go
hand it
back and
back.
get it.
Yes,
It's
but
like checking your coat, you check your
okay, so
phone.
you have to. Okay. So
Uh-huh.
they changed that.
Yeah. Now, I did meet some women, a woman that was in advertising at her office in Jeddah, and
Mhm.
she was in Western clothing. And she said when she goes out of the building, she'll put on her abaya and wear the other things. But in her
Mhm.
office, she was has an international advertising marketing firm, and she was working.
Okay.
When she
So
steps out the door, she
mhm.
goes by the rules. But inside, it was
Yeah.
great. That was wonderful, and that was later after the trek. And so the trek, we were prepared. The intention was to see with our own eyes. Our just the way we are as people is that we really know how to listen
Mhm.
and to explore and to absorb, take it in. And it was after 29 days of the journey,
Mhm.
we were absolutely, completely exhausted. We went
Yeah.
through 39 checkpoints,
Wow.
and each checkpoint you hand over your passport.
Okay.
And in most cases, the passport was handed by the driver. We did set up
Mhm.
local drivers to drive us from point A to point B, and then they turn
Yeah.
around. We would, if we had another car to go to a next section, the two drivers would not know each other.
Yeah.
So that was
Uh-huh.
part of our safety.
Sure, yes.
And we set that up with an organization, a traveling organization called R. Caruso and Sons. And
Mhm.
it was a group out of Chicago. David Weber he has sold that business. And when we went to him, we said we want to do this, and he was going, this is magnificent. You want to go from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, you want to go up through, and he's looking at it. Yes, he said, well, I'm looking at a map now, and I'm looking at all this. And we said, that's great. Would you be interested in taking us on? Yes. And he said, well, then you have to read Seven Pillars of Wisdom first.
Uh-huh.
And he said, I know about that book. He said, I wanted to read it. And he said, I will do that. We said, because now we're getting trained for this and trained for that.
Mhm.
We have this kind of equipment, and this is the safety feature that we had. He set it up, and it was flawless. It was 1,100 miles. I mean, in some cases, we're on a
Yeah.
horse, or in some cases, for
Ah.
3 days, we're on camel,
Oh, wow. Uh-huh.
or trekking,
Or
hiking
hiking.
through.
What about crossing borders?
We crossed on foot for the most part.
Mhm.
I mean, there was only a couple. I mean, crossing on foot. We went to the border, working backwards to go into Israel on a bus. And
Okay.
when Jamie said, "How are you getting across into
Uh,
Israel?" He said, "The best thing to do is just to fly. Fly in. It's
yeah.
easy. You're American." We said, "No." He said, "Where are you crossing?" He said, "King Hussein Allenby Bridge." He said, "That's not advisable."
Mm,
He said, "It's buses that are the targets.
yeah.
Buses get blown up." We said, "We want to go across on a bus, and we want to be with the people. And that's what we want to do." And it was one of the biggest direct connect eye opener of the emotions, the feelings, the tension of people,
Mhm.
and the furtive looks, the concern, the waiting. We had to wait.
Yeah.
On the bus, it's closed up. You can't pull down the windows. They're sealed shut.
Mhm.
There's no air conditioning. It's 100 and
Mhm.
something outside.
Oh.
And we're just
Yeah.
standing there, packed like sardines, our rucksack on our chests, and it's not behind us,
Mhm.
and sweating and watching where the two guys with the assault rifles are and what they're doing on either side of the bus.
Uh-huh.
We made sure we were near on the buses. They have different exits on the sides of the buses. That we were near that. We could kick it in if we needed to jump through and help or whatever we needed to do.
Uh-huh.
And we waited the first time for over 45 minutes before the bus even moved. And then it moves. And then starts coming down a hill and it stops. And I could look up and I'm seeing the driver is like looking out his window. He's talking to someone. It's like, what's going on? And then it's time to go across the bridge.
But it must have been so
Slow,
nervous.
slow. It's slow.
Mm.
And everybody's jostling around a little bit. And then it stops for almost an hour. There's a bus over there on to the left, and there's nothing on the right. And then after a while, another bus comes in on the right, and the other one empties to go into immigration
Mm.
to get into Israel.
Yeah, but that must have been so nerve-wracking.
It's it's just high alert.
Yeah, exactly. But you also, I mean, I would have been so nervous, and especially everybody must have been at that time.
It seems that way. For us, it's our first time going across, and it's very likely that many of the people on the bus do this regularly.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true.
You know, and the 39 checkpoints. I want to say that from the time, for the reason we were able to get into Saudi Arabia was that Miles is a member of an international business group, and there happened to be a chapter of that group in Jeddah. And so he had written a book with his co-host of Money Hunt that was on PBS for 3 years. And it was about rules of entrepreneurship, how to engage, how to build companies.
Yeah.
And so we used that it was acknowledged that, oh, he's a writer, so he can come. He's an American writer, and he wants to come, and he's got his assistant. Miles said I was his bodyguard.
Okay.
Going, okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Works.
So he did his speech, and there was a round of applause, and people were quiet. And then one man stood up, and these are all very wealthy Saudi men, business guys. And he just blatantly said, "Why are you here? Why are you here? It's not to come and just tell us about this book. Nice book, Mr. Spencer. It's the very good nuggets you gave us. But why are you here? No one comes here. No American comes here since 9/11. Why?" And Miles said in Arabic, and I don't have that Arabic. We came to see with our own eyes.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, no. He said, we're following T.E. Lawrence's path during the Arab vote when he went from Jeddah and the room erupts. My uncle knew T.E. Lawrence. My grandfather knew
Yeah.
T.E. Lawrence. He is a charlatan.
Okay.
And they said, this is great. You are?
Okay.
It was like we were rogues or something. Suddenly we worked our way in and they saw it and we're going,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, man, this is cool. And so what we heard was similar things all the way along the path. And that was right from even checkpoints. People, they were very surprised to see this, an American
Mhm.
passport. We were
Okay.
very surprised to realize how powerful this book, it wasn't this one, it was actually a
Yeah,
book that
another one.
became much
The
thicker.
one the one from then.
Yes, and it was, we are so sorry about 9/11, especially in the kingdom, in
Mhm.
Saudi. Hand over the heart, we are so sorry.
Okay.
We are not terrorists. Not all of us are terrorists. Yes,
Mhm.
some came from, but no. And so that went right up to being invited to, it was Osama that worked out for us to join His Royal Highness Prince Khalid bin Faisal bin
Oh, wow.
Abdul Aziz. He's a member all the way back in history, and he's the son of a king. And the man was in his late 50s, maybe 60.
Mhm.
And he was the governor of a seer. In the book, we positioned it differently, but we were invited to his majlis, and that's where we could walk in, and we sat in this gorgeous, long, sort of a hallway style room, and chairs all along the wall on one side and our side. And at the end, there was like a throne, not a throne, but a
Okay.
really nice chair and Kleenex box
Uh-huh.
and little flowers and a microphone. And there was a microphone out in the room. And when we walked in, all these Bedouin men, sheikhs from the desert, were along the wall. It was like seeing a movie.
Mhm.
It was like something out of a biblical movie. They were dressed in layers upon layers of all wools and camel hair and big, wide um, belts and girths. Some
Mhm.
had staffs, then long hair and turbans and keffiyehs and henna colored beards. And they didn't know any English. They spoke Arabic only.
Mhm.
And they were there to give a report or to settle disputes with the prince. And we
Okay.
were a guest listening. That was wonderful. At one point, Osama tapped me on the shoulder, and I leaned into him, and he says, "Tell Miles to uncross his legs." I said, "What?"
Oh.
He said, "Tell Miles to uncross his legs." Well, I looked over at Miles, and he was just at the, he was falling asleep, and his legs were
Mhm.
crossed. He was
Uh,
just a little jerk. And I said, "Miles, huh?" I said, "Uncross your legs." He says, "What?"
uh,
Uncross your legs. Look across from us. And all these men sitting there with their legs wide apart in big,
uh-huh.
thick sandals. And they were just like, looking at us,
Uh-huh.
you know. And Osama had picked up on it. So there were little things that happened. After we left the Majlis, the prince was coming through to go to his quarters in his palace. It was dark. It was misty. It was in a seer in a abha. We were at
Mm-hmm.
9,000 feet. And he stops and he says, "Thank you. It's very good to meet you. Thank you for joining me with the Majlis. Please join me for dinner. You will see that we are not all terrorists."
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And that's a prince, a major player.
Oh,
He
wow.
was very high in the lineup. And
Uh-huh.
we were guests, and it was told in Arabic. Osama filled us in that we were there to follow T.E. Lawrence's path, and
Uh-huh.
all these guys are like,
Uh-huh.
you know, there wasn't, yeah, that's cool. No, it
Yeah.
was just,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. All right. So I guess we're coming to an end, but let's talk about your book real quick. Like what is it called and where can you buy it? And
okay. The
mhm.
book is called A Line in the Sand by Miles Spencer and Wells Jones. You can buy it at Amazon. It's a sleuthing adventure following T.E. Lawrence's path, getting closer to some clues about him and about the times. And within it, we have a time travel device that as we follow his path, like we go to Aqaba. And if you've watched the Lawrence of Arabia movie, you know that Aqaba was a turning point in the war when the Lawrence led the Arabs from behind, going through the Nafud Desert to take that fort. And they did it in minutes. And so with the time travel device in our book, we go back to that moment, just the night before, actually, and the discussion that we envisioned happening with the Bedouins and the approach that they were taking, and other time periods that bring a sense of history and place to the reader. And we do have young people, a young Arab and a young Jew, that went to the Seeds of Peace camp, Seeds of Hope in the book. And so they were friends, but there's conflicts. There's a conflict that happens during our trek, and you will see how it's the resolution of it. We include recipes of the food that we ate on the
Oh,
actual journey in
nice. Uh-huh.
2006. The baba ganoush, we have heard from other people that have actually said it is incredible. It is. They used pomegranates. They included pomegranates in
Ah,
the baba
yeah.
ganoush,
Mhm. I like that.
and the sharma. Yeah. So it was just, and we also have a playlist on Apple, playlist of
Oh,
music
cool.
that accompanies the book.
Mhm.
So that is that.
That's
I've
awesome.
enjoyed
It
talking
sounds
with you.
really it sounds like a really good read. All right, and I make sure that people will find it in the show notes. So if they just look underneath the podcast in your app, there
Yes,
is a link to it.
that's great. If someone wants to be in touch with me, I'm on LinkedIn. Do you have LinkedIn? Do you know what LinkedIn is?
I know what it is, but
It's
I'm not on it.
Yeah. Well, I could send you that link.
Uh-huh.
It's just Tad W.S. Jones, LinkedIn Tad W.S. Jones. And, or you can look up Wells Jones and LinkedIn, anyone can. And then they'll see the adventures that we're continuing to do and have done. A little more detail on some of those things.
That sounds great. All right. And thank you so
Victoria, thank
much.
you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
being here. Thank you for being my guest.
It's a pleasure. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
thank you, listeners, for listening.
Yeah, definitely. That's always nice to say. All right.